It's December the 6th in Claiborne County here at Vaughn Farms, and one of the things we look for are rubs and scrapes like this one you see here. Actually, rut probably won't get really strong in this area till probably closer to Christmas time, but we're already seeing early rut like this, and usually we find these in rows, and we find a rub row like that. We know that's a good chance that that buck's going to be working that pretty regular, and we'll concentrate one of the pay hunters in this area.
Well, it started off this morning kind of disappointing because I didn't see very much. And this afternoon, sat in the stand for about an hour, and I saw a couple of does and yearlings come out, and they fed off, but they were real skittish. And about an hour and a half, I looked at the very end of the food plot, and there were two yearlings and a doe. And I kept looking, and there came another one, and there was another one. And then I was sitting in the stand where I couldn't really see the whole end of the food plot at one time. And I looked back, and there he was chasing the doe, ran off. I said, oh man, I missed my chance. So I waited, I got my binoculars, I could see him in the woods. I said, well, maybe he'll come back out. And I kept watching, and the little yearlings were still feeding. And I just happened to look back, and there he was making a scrape and eating something off the trees. And I got my gun up, and I was in I'm shoot left-handed, and I was in a really tight bind to hanging out the window to try to get a shot at him. And I shot, and he ran up the plot a little bit and just stopped and turned and looked at me. Well, I bolted my gun again, and I was shaking, so by then I said, I don't know if I can hit him again or not. So I shot again, and he ran in the woods, and there was a big oak tree, and he just fell right by that tree. Very exciting. My heart was beating so fast.
In managing the deer herds here at Vaughn Farms, we spend a lot of time with nutrition issues. We plant food plots year-round, summer plots, winter plots. In the wintertime, we like to do a lot of ryegrass, wheat, and oats. Clover's always good to have in the mixture. The turkeys benefit a lot from the clover. The clover puts a lot of nitrogen back into soil, which is really important. A lot of times in the summertime, we actually just fertilize the edges, the browse and stuff, and fertilize them, and that's what the deer eat naturally anyway. Outside of the nutrients, we try to manage our herd for age. Age is really a big factor. Even when we're shooting our does, in which we try to keep a good balance in a doe-buck ratio. So we work hard to do that. We do not expect hunters to come here and pay what they do and shoot does. So we do that early in the season. I like to get the does out of the herd early. They haven't been bred back. It's easy to tell the difference in the doe and the fawn. You don't make mistakes. And teaching my guys how to actually age deer has been a really big factor in the doe and buck harvest. That they get the long nose or the sway back or the bellies on them. There's traits that you can study. I think one problem with aging deer, though, it takes a lot of experience. We actually encourage that our hunters are experienced hunters. As far as bringing a child to get their first buck, or joining a club that we have here, and bring your grandson to shoot his first deer, it's really not our market. We have designed our product strictly for trophy hunters. I'm not saying that's not valuing the other, but you manage your herd totally different for that. And our goal is that our hunters leave here with the deer that they want to hang on their wall. And we work year-round to see that happens. Bedding areas are really big factors for us. It's very important. We'll go into an area, if you'll look around the ranch, you'll see areas where there's just been trees randomly cut. And deer love to bed up in those trees that are just cut, laying there. We don't clean them up. We leave it there for the deer to bed in it. So bedding areas are really important. I try to have my hunters hunt transitional areas. Don't hunt the bedding area because you're going to run the deer out. Don't hunt the food source because he's already there hunt in between the food source and the bedding area. I don't like to use the word ambush, but be smart in knowing that he's going to go back and forth from his bedding area to his food source on a regular basis. The issue of deer feeders and the question about, you know, the legalities and so forth, I feel that too many deer are being shot over corn feeders. I know it's happening. I think it's a horrible thing. I don't think they should legalize it. At the same time, I know it's impossible to enforce it. The corn has almost zero nutritional value to the deer. I mean, it just keeps them coming, but it's not that healthy for them. I think a problem that you're going to have in the future with feeding deer at deer feeders, that you're congregating an animals too tightly, and if there's ever disease or health issues, it's going to spread like wildfire. On our membership hunting area of what we do, we allow the guys to harvest deer that are 130 plus, and I mean 130 by the measurement in their horns is the maturity and size of the deer. On our pay hunt issues, at their price, they get to shoot a buck of their choice. And if at our last meeting, I had someone ask me about, well, what if they shoot a smaller buck? And I actually, no more than we shoot, I do not have a problem with that, because if they shoot a smaller buck, that means the one that I want breeding my does is still out there. And so so it's not a problem. And we only do 6 hunts a year, therefore it really doesn't affect our herd by them shooting a deer that's smaller than what you know, it's a trophy for them. They spent the money, they had a good experience, and they're taking home a nice buck. More recently, we've been trying to age deer properly and shoot deer according to their age. And that's, I think that'll be a thing of the future. Main beam lengths is going to be a way to measure a trophy buck in the future. As far as spreads and points, I think those are kind of old school. So I think it's time for, our hunters are learning to age deer, and I think that's going to be a big deal. Shoot 4.5, 5.5 old deer is going to be our targets. Even with our doe harvest, that's what we're going to try to do. Because we do try to keep our doe-buck ratio about equal at Vaughn properties. We do not do a whole lot of management buck hunting. I feel that probably most management bucks that are shot on different properties shouldn't have been shot. When I refer to management bucks, what I'm referring to is a buck that is probably poor in genetics, to where maybe it's a cow horn, like a spike on one side, and maybe a fork on the other side. I think if you see bucks like that genetics could be a factor, make sure that age is a factor too. Because if you take out young bucks at 2 years old and so forth, under those conditions, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. If you should decide to take a management buck of that type with the poor genetics, then make sure that he has the proper age to make that call. One question I get asked a lot is from landowners is that they have small tracts of land, and how can they manage that for trophy buck hunting? And I have several rules of thumb that I think are very important for those guys to know. And one of them would be that they would form associations with their neighbors and hunt similar and have the same type hunting as far as the type deer you agree you're going to shoot and harvest, and similar management practices with your neighbors. Therefore, the more landowners you put together in association, you actually are hunting a large area of land. I think that would be a good way to do it. If that's not the case, sometimes what I did when I purchased, I bought a small acre, 450 acres, but it joins a 3,000 acre cattle ranch. So I think it'd be really important that if you do buy small acres, that it joins larger acres, because usually the larger acres are going to be managed and have clubs or some type of management program for the wildlife. Another thing I like to do on small acres is plant your interior of your property. Hunt the exteriors, plant the interiors. I think you need a really thick bedding area on the interior of your property, maybe a cutover or something, or a clear cut, and let that really get nasty and have it off limits to hunting whatsoever. Give them a place to go. You will push them off small areas really easy. So you've got to have a place for them to retreat to. I've seen small acres become very successful in doing their hunting.